Right now. We're going to go long form with our weather coverage here just because we've got the type of thunderstorm that's going to produce some significant damage through the city of Lubbock. We're talking 70 to 80 mile per hour wind that's moving through the city right now. That's going to be strong enough to down some power lines. We're going to have large enough hail getting up there, at least to golf ball size hail, but we have the potential for possibly some larger size hail that's going to be up there, maybe as large as baseball. Right now, though, it's the wind threat that I'm concerned with this thunderstorm that's rolling through the city right now. I want to pause for just a second here. Okay, now we welcome all of the Raymar Communications radio stations, alerting you to a severe thunderstorm warning that's in place for the city of Lubbock right now with some very strong wind that's rolling on through here. And Rudy Pierce also here. Rudy, where are some of the strongest wind gusts we've had to this point?
Well, right through the Levelland area, Morton, 72 miles per hour about 30 minutes ago. Levelland, that's where we've had reports of several down power lines with the strong wind gusts. Also around the Reese area, north of Shallow Water, strongest winds up to 70 to 80 miles per hour possible. So again, within this line of storms, also ahead of the line of storms, there's outflow boundaries. That's going to produce very strong winds as well. Then once you get the storms that move over, anything from about 70 to 80 miles per hour is certainly possible. And again, with these strong wind gusts, we're seeing multiple reports of down power lines and other sorts of minor damage.
Yeah, and this is the type of wind, you don't know exactly where the strongest wind is going to move on through, but we can tell you this much, what the storms have done. And that's going to be a pretty good indication of what they're likely going to do. So here in the city, you can see we're looking north here from South Lubbock, 98th and University, just kind of seeing the lightning edging in right now. But I want to give you the heads up. This storm is moving in. We can tell you right now with certainty it's got a history of 70 to 75 mile per hour wind. So what you want to do is you don't want to ride this storm out near the windows. Just want to get to the most interior room of your house. Not saying that this is like a tornado. We did have a brief report earlier of a thunderstorm that at least was showing some signatures that would suggest maybe it was like possibly briefly spun up a tornado. But the difference between a weak tornado and what we have here is actually the difference of it being a tiny little area, like maybe a block of a neighborhood, compared to what we have here. See this line right here, and actually I think we're getting a little bit of little bad data right there. Some folding looks like of the radar signature. I'm going to pull up a different radar computer to give you a little bit different perspective here. Just going to cycle through here for just a second. And also, we welcome everyone watching Telemundo Lubbock right now. Welcome everyone watching Telemundo Lubbock. Just ended the first segment of the newscast, alerting you that we're here with continuous weather coverage of a line of very strong wind that's moving right through here. This is on the western side of Lubbock County. So this is getting right there to recenter. And Rudy, what type of wind have we seen at recenter to this point? May not have hit, actually it doesn't look like it's hit the site yet. Yeah,
the radar indicated from 70 to 80 mile per hour winds possible, hitting right there, right around recenter. So pretty much what we've seen on the strongest end. It almost is getting a little stronger with each new report up to about 72, then 75 miles per hour, possibly up to 80 miles per hour, but we have not seen that yet.
Okay, so here's the city of Lubbock right here. This is the loop. This is on the western edge of the greater city of Lubbock area. This line right here, what we're looking at is the velocity product. Red is moving away. Green is coming toward the radar site. Let me see if I can clean this up just a second.
Just got a report of 70 mile per hour wind gusts at Reese Village and quarter mile and dirt. So visibility, quarter mile.
All right, so what we can tell you right now is the wind is on the west side of the city. Now, what we normally look for when we're talking about, and I would ignore some of the red you're seeing right here. This is green. It's just some of the artifacts that happen when we look at radar data like this. But you know, often in the springtime, I say you want to see the reds and greens coming together. That's where we're looking for a tornado. We're not looking at that. This is a strong line of wind that's moving east. And also, Rudy, if we could flip over, if we haven't already, to the live stream.
It's the computer crash. I'm restarting it right now.
That's the way it happens sometimes. That's okay. We're not looking here, although you can sometimes get the vortices, the spinning on the front line of these thunderstorms as they move on through. We're not looking at that at this point. That's still a possibility on the leading edge. I can tell you is this is a strong line of wind that's moving on through. So you just want to get inside your house, ride it out, lowest level of the floors. This thunderstorm's rolling on through here, and we'll go back to the other radar product and kind of give you an idea of what the thunderstorm is doing. Do not want to ignore any part of the South Plains because severe thunderstorm warnings are in place for pretty much all of our area at this point. If you're not under a severe thunderstorm warning, you're likely going to be pretty quickly here. Here's a little bit broader perspective. Severe thunderstorm warnings continue to the north. Strong wind moving through Plainview right now in the core. We see the bright reds, which is back just on the Hale-Lamb County line, about to halfway right now, moving toward Edmondson. That's the hail threat. We see the reds. That's where we're talking potentially golf ball, maybe up to baseball size hail within the core right here. The strong wind is out ahead of it. I can put the velocity product back on it and to show you where you see that big change from the red to the green. That's the strong wind. So you get the wind initially 70, 75 miles per hour, then back behind it you get the large hail. So the hail threat is not yet into Lubbock, but the storms are moving off to the east. Severe thunderstorm warnings continue for Castro, Swisher, Lamb, Hale, Hockley, Lubbock, Cochran, Yoakum, Terry, and Lynn counties, as well as Gaines, Dawson, Lee counties. Roughly about the western, about 60% of our areas. This covers about 400,000 people under severe thunderstorm warnings right now, and this does include the greater Lubbock area. So we have very strong wind. If you're listening to us on any one of the radio stations right now, I want to give you the heads up. You really don't want to be driving around in this. And just if you can get home, get to your destination, that's what you'd want to do. The wind is going to get very strong here. We're going to have some pretty strong wind gusts as well with these thunderstorm rolling on through. So if your power goes out, right now we're on all of the Raymar Communications radio stations, 107.7 The Eagle, Double T 104.3, 97.3 Yes FM, Fox Talk 950, 100.7 FM, and Magic 93.7. So again, a severe thunderstorm warning continues for Lubbock County and most of the South Plains with very strong wind that's moving through the city right now. Yeah, go, Rudy.
The latest report now, 75-mile-per-hour winds in Anton, very poor visibility.
Okay, and that just gives us, like Rudy mentioned, with the strong wind, I mean, that's not the first. How many of those gusts have we already had just the past little while? I mean, several different cities already.
About 4 or 5 over 70 miles per hour, yeah, in just the past 15 or 20 minutes.
Okay, so this is what we can tell you. Not only the radar data that is very definitive, showing a strong wind is moving on in, we've got it recenter on the west side right here, 70+ mile per hour gust, Anton right there. So we know these two sites, this is moving toward the city of Lubbock. So not trying to scare anybody out there, not trying to say that, hey, this is just the worst of things, but this is a significant storm. Remember, severe thunderstorm warnings are issued for the wind at least 58 miles per hour or hail at least 1 inch diameter. We're talking about the wind gust up there at about 2 inches.
And Matt?
Yeah, go ahead.
Also, behind this, the line of storms, winds still gusting over 50 miles per hour in Muleshoe and Morton. So the National Weather Service is now considering issuing a high wind warning for most of the area behind the storm. So while it's not as strong as the initial line of storms that moves through, still very strong winds behind the storms as well. Very windy night in store for us, it looks like.
Okay, sounds good. And going back to the radar image, as you see it moving through the central part of the South Plains, let me stop just one quick second here and think I can flip us back over here onto the Raymar Communications radio stations. Want to confirm just 1 second that we're here on the radio stations as well. Okay, there we go. On all the Raymar Communications radio stations that we're on now because of a severe thunderstorm warning. It's got 70 to 80 mile per hour winds moving through the city. And we've got upwards of at least likely the threat of at least golf ball size hail, but these storms have produced upwards there of about 2 inch diameter hail across the western South Plains. So we're focusing on Lubbock right here, but again, the western South Plains, this line of thunderstorms with large hail stretches from just about Olton right now, comes down, it's just to the west of Hale Center, about to Cotton Center right now, runs through, it's moved through Littlefield. It's on the eastern side of Hockley County, western part of Lubbock County. This is the core where the hail is, and it comes back down toward Brownfield. So at this point, we don't have any reports of any tornadoes. If you're going to get tornadoes out of a thunderstorm complex like this, it's not going to be on the backside of a storm like we normally look for the thunderstorm to really spin around. It's going to be on the front edge of that line of storms that's moving on through. And those tornadoes usually don't last all that long. They can enhance the wind a little bit. But I just want to stress at this point, we're not talking about tornadoes at this point, no tornado warnings out there. It's that the wind is so strong. When you get up to 70, 80 mile per hour wind gusts, we already have reports from north of Levelland, close to Pep, back in Hockley County of the power lines being down. We're likely going to look at Likely going to look at some down power lines leading to power outages here in the city. You know, a couple days ago we woke up with those 50, 55 mile per hour wind gusts, had some trees snapped down. We've already had several reports of trees being snapped, things like that across the western South Plains. So as this big core of the thunderstorm is rolling on in here to the east, still concerned with that strong wind. I'm going to go back to our other radar product here just 1 second, give us a little bit clearer look at what the strong wind is doing. I'll go back to the velocity product, and again, what you're seeing right now is what you're used to seeing the regular radar. Red means heavy rain, and today it means big, big hail. I want to go to the velocity product and show you what we're looking at with this very strong line of wind that's edging into the western side of the city. You can see based on the radar data right here, it's coming to, let me get a little bit closer look here. Okay, looks like it's almost to the Texas Tech campus right here. It's moved through the western edge of the city, and Rudy will have an update on the Wolfforth Mesnet station in just a second. It's just southeast of town, so the wind may not have hit it yet. It's rolling through the city right now. It's going to be moving inside the loop here pretty quickly. We're talking about that strong push of wind, and it stays pretty strong, at least behind the initial push of the wind, as this continues to push off to the east, so rolling right through the middle of the city is that really strong wind. And again, I stress that we're looking mainly at a straight line wind setup like this, where you get that really strong wind, 70, 80 miles per hour that's rolling on through the city.
Just had a report, it was actually from about 15 minutes ago, but they just reported it, 79 mile per hour wind in West Levelland.
Okay.
So again, just more confirmation. We're looking up to about 80 mile per hour straight line wind with this line of storms that's moving through.
And to give you kind of an idea of lining up with some of the history have some of the more significant wind events we've seen as of late. Just outside our area, Childress, back in 2008, we had a strong wind event where there were several mobile homes that sustained significant damage, and many like down power lines, things like that, you know, utilities that were knocked down. And then also Seminole, you're under a severe thunderstorm warning, not seeing quite as strong of a wind. But you remember well back about 2007, I think it was, where you had the very strong wind. That was about 100 mile per hour wind that was there. Haven't seen those reports just yet, but the reason I'm bringing that up is the fact that these types of thunderstorms that produce the very strong straight line wind, they can actually produce some damage that's going to be more widespread, because again, you've got a line that's running all the way about from Cress. It's coming in through Plainview. You've got the wind now in Plainview. The hail is to your west. It comes all the way down to Lubbock, stretches back down toward Brownfield and down to Seminole. So north to south, this is encompassing all of the South Plains, and the environment that's out there. We've got moist wind, a good southeast wind that's feeding into this complex of storms, so it's going to be efficient at maintaining itself. This, I mean, you know, it's been, is it ever going to rain? Rudy and I were talking a couple hours ago, this thing was going to miss Lubbock and be, you know, two cores like that. That ain't happening here. Big line of storms that's going to continue moving south and east, so we can say right now, most of the rest of the South Plains will continue to be affected by this complex of storms.